Everybody, happy Friday. Ian Hill here, building the public sector, one leader at a time. The director's track, executive leaders track, all across North America. Executive leaders on a Friday afternoon on the East Coast, Friday midday in the center of the continent, and Friday at 12:30?
Yeah.
12:30 on the West Coast. It's a coaching session, so we take down the set, and we're just here in the raw. That's not right. We're not here in the raw. We're just here in the raw. And I'm joined by our trusty cohort in crime, taking all of your questions, Jeff Fast.
Hey there.
Jeff is here. How are you? Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, hey, I like that.
I like that.
That's neat.
Upgrade,
Yeah. Hey.
2014.
All right.
Woo. That's right. We're picture in picture. So what's the deal? The deal is we're talking about systems thinking. There's not enough time, energy, or effort at your disposal to get done everything you need to get done as an executive leader. Why? Because these are changing times, hectic times. There's a lot being expected of you. Not just you as the director or executive leader, but you within your family, you out in the community, you. A lot to be expected. And we made the case that it was systems that were the key. Archimedes said, give me a place to stand and I will move the world. What was he talking about? He was talking about his fulcrum and lever. And what does that mean to us today? The fulcrum and lever is a force multiplier. Systems are force multipliers. Now, we're not just talking about your personal systems, because as an executive leader, you're responsible for creating great systems throughout your organization. You are responsible for not only creating, deploying, maintaining relevant, effective, impactful systems. Because without great systems in your organization, you get this. I don't know, it's just what we do around here. I don't know, it's just what we do around here. And we blame employees for poor performance, but it's usually bad systems. Deming said 85% of employee poor performance related back to management not having good systems in place. And I believe that to be true. So I tried to make the case that the world was a system right before the holidays. That everything around us is a system. And that systems either organically grow up and take hold or are intentionally developed for a specific purpose. You know what? As an executive leader myself, my only role is to create great systems. That's it. Great systems. Well, I guess two roles. Create great systems and build the people that directly report to me. That's it. Build great systems and develop the people that directly report to me. Because if I create great systems, they take care of themselves. Right?
That makes sense.
If I create a great system for recruiting and retaining great people, if I help facilitate the creation of a great system for employee performance, if I create the great system for the gathering of thoughts, ideas, and concerns, which we'll talk a little bit about today, or motivation, or whatever. All about systems. Now, what's funny is you guys are systems thinkers, especially those of you that came up on the engineering side of things. You're absolutely systems thinkers. You know what else is funny? You got systems for how you maintain the truck, the plow. You know when it's going to get an oil change. You know when it's got to get this and that and a tune-up and a da-da-da-da-da-da. And if you're responsible in your portfolio for maintaining facilities for the city or for the town or for whatever, you got systems of when that light bulb is going to be changed or when that thing over there is going to be cleaned. But where we rarely have systems, though, are on the intangible side of things. People development, idea creation, innovation, succession planning, on and on, motivation, on and on and on. So it's the same process. It's just applying it to what seems to be intangible. So remember, during our time of day, you can ask. We want you to ask questions. That's why we're here. We're here for 45 minutes or so to take your questions. Now, how can you send us your questions? I mean, otherwise, Jeff doesn't have anything to do. So you can chat. Give me the order here. Throw them up on the screen. Keith, desperately searching. You can Facebook in your question. Facebook.com, building the public sector. Or you can text in your question, 775-230-4535. Or you can chat box in your question, right? You can put it in your chat box. So you can Facebook in your question, you can chat box in your question, You can text in your question. You can even email in your question at ian@thechangingpoint.com. Now, I know you have that because we put it up for the emerging leaders.
We have questions,
What did I say?
You said Ian
I'm sorry.
Questions
at thechangingpoint.com. So, questions at thechangingpoint.com, the Facebook page. You can text in your questions, 775-230-4535, or you can put them in the chat box. Jeff is fastidiously.
We have a comment from Lewiston. A comment from Lewiston
Yes,
in the chat
Lewiston,
box.
Idaho.
Yes. And they're talking about urgency-addicted people in their group. So,
Okay, go ahead.
No, that's just talk about urgency-addicted people. Some in our group
Are urgency addicted.
I guess they are. So
Okay, you know
Lewiston, calm. It's lunchtime.
Calm. But you know what? That's an excellent point. Because maybe we'll go down that road. Maybe that's the first road we'll go down. Because on Monday, I sent you an email talking about time and presented a system for maximizing the utilization of your time. And in that system, we did talk about urgency addiction. That the urgency addiction of email, the urgency addiction of phone calls, we are urgency addicted. You could, if you have an email-heavy job, you know, especially as a director, you literally could spend the whole day working your butt off answering email and not get anything done. I cannot overemphasize that video on Monday morning for directors or executive leaders, especially understanding the high leverage activities of a director. Remember the concept. The concept was that there are some activities that when you do them, provide you a greater return. There was other activities that when you do them, provide you less of a return. Well, give me some examples, Ian. Well, like an example might be this. Getting out of your office and getting out with people is a high return on investment activity. Why? Because you accomplish multiple things in that hour. You check quality, you check performance, you check morale, you're available to your people, you're a transparent leader. I mean, I could name probably, what do you think, 6, 7?
Yeah, easily.
At least.
Easily.
6 or 7 things. Excuse me. I had pneumonia. Yeah, really, pneumonia. I'm just coming off of the medicine, the antibiotics and everything for pneumonia. Can you believe that? Pneumonia. Because I broke my rib. Pneumonia. Crazy. Anyways, that was my holiday break. Anyways.
Utilizing time.
Yeah, I got you. So those times that I go and I'm with my people, I can accomplish 6 or 7 of the vital critical roles of being vital critical tactics of being an executive leader. As I just mentioned, it's a high return on investment activity because I can do more in that hour than many other activities that I could spend an hour doing. The whole concept here as an executive leader is, what are those high return on investment activities for you as an executive leader? Spending time with your direct reports, I bet, is a high return on investment activity. Spending undivided time, individual undivided time with that direct report. Why? It's a time for coaching. It's a time for teaching. It's a time for listening. It's a time for building a bond. It's a time for hearing their issues, their challenges, their problems, and providing support. It's a time to use the delegation matrix. Well, we don't have time for that. I don't have time to get out with my people. I don't have time to spend with my direct reports as much as I'd like. Exactly. That's why I think you have to take control, list those high return on investment activities. Now, some of you haven't watched the video, so you have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm sorry. But you got to watch the video so you know what I'm talking about. By listing those high return on investment activities, by listing the roles that I play, by listing the specific goals that I have in those roles, and by proactively identifying the high return on investment activities, there's a greater likelihood that they're going to actually make it on my calendar. How do I increase the likelihood that they're going to make it on my calendar? I make an appointment with myself to do that activity. Make an appointment with yourself. Well, I'll tell you what I used to do. You know, I had 1,100 employees spread out over a lot of space. Not as much space as some of you. I want to make sure I was in every department that was underneath my authority. And so I would just block it out. I have my admin assistant just put it in my calendar. I made an appointment with myself. So I made sure that the high leverage activities that would get me quicker to that thing I want to accomplish were in my calendar every week. So when you sit down to organize your schedule, those activities that are absolutely important, are they on the calendar? That's why I'm going to give you a time matrix exercise to track your time. Where's your time going? Where's your time going? Where's it headed to? So your direct reports just did this exercise recently. We're going to give you the exercise. Where's your time going? So you can see, are those high leverage activities making it on your calendar? Or are they the last thing that happens? I mean, stop and think about it. We're answering email more than we're spending time with our people. That's not going to get us where we need to go. Well, I got to answer that email. Okay, then set aside time in each day, an hour here, an hour here, an hour here, to answer your email. Or maybe at the beginning and the end of the day. Now look, I'm not here to lecture you. You're an executive leader. I'm just giving you some food for thought. If you can bring into alignment the 100 hours, usable hours you have in your week with your personal goals, your organizational goals, your professional goals, as much as you can do to get those in alignment, the greater likelihood they'll come to fruition. So wouldn't it behoove me to proactively look at those high return on investment activities, time block them in by making an appointment with myself, and then filling out the rest of my schedule? But usually we go the other way, Jeff. Mm-hmm. We block in our schedule, and then we put in those activities that we know are really important.
Right. And they come way down on the priority list. They're getting done late on Friday.
Or they're not getting done at all.
Or not getting done at all.
I know I need to meet with my direct report, but there's a thing that comes up, and so I tell them I'll meet with you next week.
Right.
And then I'll meet with you next week, and then the quarter goes by and we never meet.
Exactly.
So I strongly encourage you, as you start to go into this new year, if you haven't watched that time video, I strongly encourage you to take a look at that half-hour time video. Now I'm going to send you that time matrix exercise if you choose to do it, where you track your time, and then I'll send you a video that explains that exercise at the end of next week. Okay? All right. Add any questions?
Not so far. Okay. So we can go on to
I know we had some questions about outside the box thinking.
Outside
right?
the box thinking.
So let me just set the stage. So outside the box thinking. Remember when we talked last time? Do you have a way to come up with a creative idea? Do you have a way to come up with a creative idea? Now, I gave you two ways. I gave you an individual way, a system that you could utilize that would probably generate more innovative ideas than not. And then we gave you a system to generate ideas, thoughts, and concerns amongst your team. I think your question revolves around the individual side, right? Or either way. Go either way.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff's got some questions.
Yeah. Okay. So as we're talking about generating ideas outside the box, we've got the formal approach, the informal approach.
Gathering thoughts, ideas, and concerns.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, gathering thoughts, ideas, and concerns. We've got the formal approach, the informal approach.
Right.
And in the formal approach, we've got an anonymous channel or conduit.
Right.
We've got suggestion boxes, surveys, and things like that. Now, I had a suggestion box. I had 25 employees, 100 volunteers at a human services agency. We had a suggestion box, and I got gum wrappers.
Right. And cigarette butts.
And well, not so much.
Not so much. Right. Yeah. All right, gum wrappers.
Yeah, but I got gum wrappers. How do you get that going so that people understand this is a real thing you're interested in?
Okay, so what's the strategy for making sure that my anonymous forms of communication or conduits of communication to gather our thoughts, ideas, and concerns are taken seriously? It's the same for my face-to-face as well. The following are the key ingredients to people taking you seriously. One, you must have a written explanation of what we're doing, and why we're doing it. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, this suggestion box will be used in the following way. Now you'll get Snickers. You'll get Snickers. You might get Snickers. What do you mean by that? People going like this. Great.
Or Snickers wrappers.
Or Snicker wrappers. But I would caution you and say why? Because they don't trust the system. So you gotta create a system that people will trust. And you've got to know that people at minimum will probably be ambivalent. At the other end, they'll be cynical. So in your specific case, Jeff, they didn't trust the suggestion box system because perhaps they hadn't been asked an opinion in the past, or if they had been, it hadn't been followed through upon. So step number one, clearly communicate. Stop the bus, draw the line in the sand, and say, hey everybody, I know in the past when we've done these things, maybe it hasn't done what it hasn't accomplished what we specifically set out to do because of these reasons. We've changed. Now remember, you only get one bite of that kind of an apple. Right? You can't come back to them again and again and say, oh yeah, we blew it, now we're trying it again and we're trying it again. You probably only get one bite of that apple. So you draw the line in the sand and say, before today, we know that maybe we weren't as thorough, we didn't follow through, we weren't as effective, so you might be a little cynical about that box on the wall. But I'm here to tell you that things have changed. And then you list how they've changed. One, we're going to collect the suggestions at the end of every month, or whatever the time frame is. So you give a specific time frame for the collections of thoughts, ideas, and concerns. Two, you give a specific time frame for the response of thoughts, ideas, and concerns, and you give specifically how they can be expected to be responded to. So one, we will collect it every month. Two, we will respond to you within 14 days. Three, you can expect it to be posted on blank wall on this Facebook page or on this website, on this wall in writing, on this and on this website, and we'll respond to individuals who leave their names with a notation. You can expect those three things from us within 2 weeks, or within 45 days, or within a month, whatever. So you increase the credibility by one, admitting if we've screwed it up before. Two, giving specific time frame for collection, for specific time frame for response, specific conduits that you'll be responding through. And then finally, you're clear on the answer they can expect. And the answers they can expect are this: yes, no, not right now. That's it. What other response is there? Yes, that's an awesome idea. We are going to move it forward to the task force. Remember, we talked about the task force.
Right.
We're going to move it to the task force, and the task force is going to take it. Or, no, we're not going to do that. And here's why. Or, not right now, we need to gain more information. Thank you so much. We have tabled that. And then you got to have something you're doing with the items that you're tabling. Ian, that is a hell of a lot of work. Or, I create a system, and all I need is one great idea to come out of that box a year. That's it. One idea that saves us 50 grand here, or one idea that improves our efficiency there, or one idea that saves somebody's life because of safety, or one idea that lessens stress and increases morale. And you must look at the residual impact when I use an idea that goes through the task force process, implemented and brought to fruition. How does that individual employee feel? And what does it do for the credibility of my communication conduits? It increases it significantly. So up front, yes, a significant amount of work, no doubt about it. But once I get the thing rocking, it perpetuates itself. But the key ingredient to your question, Jeff, is people don't trust the system. So those people, those 25 employees and 100 volunteers probably didn't trust the system. They didn't trust that what they put in there was going to be listened to. They didn't trust that if it was listened to, anything would come out of it. So they say this: why the hell should I buy in? Why should I put my time and energy to give you an idea? Kiss my butt, I don't care. Or, I've been let down before, I've been burned before, nothing's going to come out of it anyways. So for me, I have to draw the line in the sand, create credibility instantly from the beginning. And then, of course, I got to follow through on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, when someone does come up with an idea, what do you do as far as like giving credit or motivation for that?
Like patting them on the
Like
back?
patting them on the back, that kind of stuff.
Now, me, what I always did was every idea was responded to.
Okay.
And if we had their name, I personally responded to every idea. Thank you for your idea. Not, we're going to use your idea. Not, it was the greatest idea, but you took the time to give an idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Because if I could get, in my opinion was, if I could get 1,000 people, if I could get 1,000 people to be thinking about how we could improve service, reduce expenses, and in our situation, increase revenue. If I could get 1,000 people thinking about that, I was going to come up with an idea.
Probably, yeah.
Or if I could just get 250 or 300. If I could just get a third of our team to be constantly thinking about ways that they could improve what we were doing, if they could reduce the expenses of what we were doing, or if they could, in our case, increase revenue in what we were doing, I was going to get a good idea. Eventually.
Yeah.
But it was a system to cultivate that. Now, I'll look at you and say this. One of the ways to increase the credibility of the public works sector or the public sector in general is we got to generate great ideas. We got to show that we're efficient and effective. Now, I'm not saying you're not efficient and effective, but as times change, we have to come up and be more innovative and be more creative. Like I've always said that I think the public sector should be the gold standard of how to run an organization. Right now, there's laughter across North America.
Oh.
And, let me tell you why.
Yeah.
If there was any organization in town, or in the city, or in the county, or in the province, or in the state, if there was any organization that should be awesome, you know what it should be? The one that serves everybody. The one that every single citizen is touched by or interacts with. Shouldn't that be the organization that sets the gold standard of what service looks like, efficiency looks like? Yeah. Now, I'm serious. You guys are going to send me emails and tell me I'm a fool and you're going to laugh in my face, but you would just think that it would be. Well, the only way that we can be that is great ideas. Unfortunately, most departments that I walk into don't have a way to generate great ideas. Because, excuse me, sorry, Keith, I should have warned you. Because it's not a priority. It's not a priority to come up with great ideas. I'm not being disparaging, it's just not a priority. Well, that's because we're trying to hold down the fort and put out fires because we don't have enough money and we don't have enough this and we don't have enough that. Okay, but some of those problems would be solved by coming up with great ideas. And this goes back to our maximizing utilization of your time. I just personally came to the conclusion that one of my high return on investment activities was creating a system that would generate great ideas. And as soon as I had that system in place, we were knocking down great ideas. Great ideas were coming up. But as you point out, it is an evolution.
Okay.
Because there is some cynicism early on. And there is some, negativity early on. So be ready for the rapper, be ready for the snide comment, be ready for that. But if you just get one good idea out of the first round, make sure you do something with that good idea so people see this is real. And then the next time you'll get a few more and then a few more and a few more. As soon as people trust the system, they'll participate.
And I think that's the key that we're learning is that communication outward. This model is a communication inward. This is people telling us the great ideas they've got.
It's two-way in the
but
sense.
we've got to complete the communication loop.
The loop. That's
and that is tell people what the ideas were that came in and what we're going to do with them. Yes, no.
Not right now.
Not right now.
And do it in the exact time frame that you specified because that builds trust.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to do is build trust in the communication model or system that we're utilizing. As soon as they trust, bank on this. You'll get plenty of stuff. And sometimes, if we're speaking honestly, we don't want that. Sometimes. And you know who you are. You don't want everybody giving you ideas. You don't want everybody giving you suggestions. You don't want everybody messing things up like that. Just shut up, do your job, and that'll be enough. Well, you know, there's probably every once in a while a time and place for that kind of an approach. Crisis management, right? I mean, you know, there's some time where just shut up and this is how we do it because we're in a crisis. But more times than not, you're going to have better operational efficiency, higher morale, and you're going to have more people giving their all if you're willing to have them participate with their suggestions, thoughts, ideas, and concerns. And that's one that we haven't talked about that I want to just stop on for just a second. Concerns. The other beauty of this process is you start to hear about concerns before they become mushroom clouds. I start to hear about concerns before they become mushroom clouds. Because when they become mushroom clouds, then forget about all my time management or maximizing utilization of my time. Every single hour I got is working on that grievance. Or every single hour that I got is working on that major snafu that happened in a department that if I had known about it, I could have fixed it early on. Now you stop and think. You stop and think how many hours you put into an employee grievance or how many hours you put into a big snafu in your department. Is it worth it to have a process where people can tell you what's going on? Put in a little bit of time to build a system to gather thoughts, ideas, and concerns? How many hours would it save you in a year if when those concerns came forward, people knew there was a trusted now, let's be clear, a trusted system that they could turn to let somebody know? How much time would that save you?
I just flashed on the governor of New Jersey and his snafu. If one of those cone layer guys had been able to communicate up the channel, hey, what are we doing?
Yeah, why are we closing this road down?
Exactly.
This is ridiculous. So, and we don't want to get into a whole political
No, yeah.
thing, but I would say this, I think Jeff's point is quite valid. I just read something very interesting yesterday. The CEO of, I forgot, some big corporation that's very well respected, said it's all about trust. It's all about trust. When an employee feels like their thoughts, ideas, and concerns are being heard, they are more likely to trust the organization, which means they're more likely to give their all. Now, what's funny about that big-time CEO? I already told you that. You didn't have to read his article. All right. Okay, so you have something else?
Nope, we're good.
All right. Were you going to ask something about thinking outside the box?
Yeah, let me get my thoughts together on that just a minute. So go ahead.
So the whole concept of systems, and don't forget you can ask your questions. We've been talking for an hour and nobody's asked a question. So you can ask your question at, throw them up there again, Keith. Come on. Keith's back there playing Angry Birds today. Facebook is becoming, building the public sector, building the public sector. Or you can text in your question, 775-230-4535. Make sure you're checking that.
Yep.
4535. Or questions@thechangingpoint.com. Or you can put them in the chat box. So, questions. Because here's what we're going to do. We got about 15, 16 minutes left. We're going for 45 minutes. And if there's no questions, then I'm not going to sit here and ramble on. So what are your questions when it comes to systems? Whether it's systems of how to maximize the utilization of your time, systems for gathering thoughts, ideas, and concerns, systems for thinking outside the box, and then next week we're going to talk to you a little bit about the time, but also motivation. So, systems. Well, one of the systems that I would like to mention to you was the individual system of how to gather thoughts, ideas, and concerns. The individual system. The individual system for coming up with innovative ideas. So the group system, that system for gathering thoughts, ideas, and concerns, will generate innovative ideas. But then what about you? Do you know how to come up with a good idea? Do you know how to come up with an idea that's outside the box? Now, I gave you a system last time we were together. And we started with, and some of you that come up on the engineering side of things, we started with an outcome-based approach. an outcome-based approach. What do I want it to be? That is not typical. Typically, most of us use a resource-based approach. We have this much time, we have this much energy, we have this much money, we have this much labor, we have this much. And because we have this much, we can do these things. And because we can do these things, we hope to accomplish this outcome. And if we accomplish this outcome, we'll have this impact. That's basically the flow that most people use. The challenge with that is it inherently defends the status quo. It inherently defends the way that it is now. Because I'm starting with what is now. If I want to have something different, I got to start at a different place. I start with an outcome and then work my way through. Now, did you want to ask that question now?
Yeah. The public service is different from public safety, and we've talked a little bit about how public safety is pretty good at getting their mission out, getting their goals out. Public safety, public service, the public works side needs to be doing the same kind of thing, right? We need to be able to articulate the goal. What do we want in our sewer systems? What do we want in our park systems? What do we want in our planning systems and the infrastructures? And then come back to what do we need to accomplish those things?
So I think what you're getting at is the innovative idea of how do you get buy-in among citizenry and create an attitudinal shift towards the public works sector.
Exactly.
So, one of the challenges that you as a director do face is how do I get the people in my community to understand, in some instances, the gravest nature of the condition of our infrastructure. Infrastructure is not glamorous. Infrastructure is not sexy to most people. To some of you, it absolutely is. But we know it's incredibly vital. We can't have a 21st century community without you and without what you do and without the services and the infrastructure that you provide. The challenge is that most people don't get that. John Q. Public doesn't get that in most instances. So what Jeff is getting at is how do we come up with an innovative and creative idea to get buy-in from citizenry? And he is correct. It does start with being able to clearly articulate what exactly is it that makes this valuable, the outcome. Now, I would suggest to you that people understanding that clearly defined objective or that clearly defined outcome, what do we want it to be, look like, smell like, feel like, taste like, and then comparing and contrast that to where it's at today. When I compare and contrast that to where it's at today, I get a better, they and I get a better sense of that courageous conversation you've heard me talk about before. Well, I don't understand what you mean. So here's nirvana. Here's what it could be, and here's where we're at today. The next step in trying to get things done or creating an innovative idea is asking yourself, what is the attitudinal barriers that prevent us from getting from here to there? Now, most of us would say this, the attitudinal barrier is resources. Huh? How can that be attitudinal? Well, that's what most of you would say to me. The reason I can't get done what I need to get done is I need more money. If I had more money, just give me more money. I need more money in my budget. Just give me more money in my budget. And I would say, do you need more money in your budget, or do you need the people who control your budget to better understand the importance and value of what you do? Do you need to create an attitudinal shift amongst the people who control your budget? If the right 7 people, 5 people, 11 people, 9 people got in alignment with the value, the importance of public works, you'd have all the money you needed, right? I mean, think about it. That's why Jeff was making the point on public safety. The sheriff, the constable, the police chief, fire chief, they do a pretty darn good job of clearly articulating the outcome and where we're at now. And they shift some attitudes. No, I'm not against anybody. I'm just pointing out the fact that, they do a pretty good job of that articulation. And that's why, oftentimes their budgets don't get cut. Fact is, they get increased. Well, you and I both know you got more guys on the street, usually in most instances. You touch more citizens and are probably more relevant. I'm not against public safety. Don't send me an email, and don't tell the sheriff or the police chief or the constable that I said that necessarily, because you'd be taking it out of context. I'm just using them as an example that we probably do a pretty poor job of articulating value, importance, relevance, and worth. So the attitude, when we try to get from here to there, the attitude of decision makers becomes a barrier. So what we really have to do when we trying to think of an innovative idea is think about how we shift those attitudes to get from where we're at to where we can potentially become. And so we say, well, what activities could I utilize to shift those attitudes to take me from where I'm at to what I could potentially become? And then and only then do you say what resources will be necessary to do those activities. Well, many of you, one of you sent me an email and asked me, well, I don't understand how you utilize that practically. Well, the practical application is you asking yourself questions. What do I want it to be? How would I explain what I want it to be? What words would I use? What facts would I use? What anecdotal information would I use? What examples would I use of what I want it to be? Then, where are we at today? And that's that courageous conversation, honest and truthful and sincere exploration of where it's at now, the situation, the idea, the whatever. Okay, what prevents us from getting from here to there? What has prevented us up until now? I'm asking myself questions. And then I'd make a list of those things that have prevented us. Distrust, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then I say to myself, well, what activities could I do to shift those attitudes? And that's where we start the innovation. That's where we start to come up with a good idea. How can I shift those attitudes? And then what activities could I do, and then what resources would I need? Now what's funny is, in my opinion, whether you like that innovative thinking idea or not, it doesn't matter to me. Just have one. Just have a way that you come up with a good idea. Well, we brainstorm. Well, later, in a couple weeks, I'm going to tell you why typical brainstorming is flawed, in my opinion. And I'll show you why, and I'll show you a different way. But if you don't have a way to come up with a good idea, we're screwed. No, seriously. If we're just hoping that some brilliant guy comes along and comes up with a good idea, we're screwed. The problems are too multifaceted. They're too complex. Instead, let's teach people how to be more innovative in their thinking. Then let's create systems that would generate some excitement and cultivate ideas, thoughts, and concerns. And then we're more likely to get good ideas. If we intentionally and strategically teach people how to come up with good ideas and then create systems that give those ideas a voice and action, do you think we're going to be more innovative? Hell yes. And the beauty of organizations like APWA is they can quickly and easily share those great ideas. Quickly and easily share those great ideas. But where does it begin? It begins with you as an executive leader making an all-out commitment to generating some great ideas, which means that you teach your people how to come up with a good idea. So if you don't, sorry, Keith, if you don't like my approach, if you don't like this outcome-based approach or system, you don't like it, fine. Go to the flipping internet, type in how to come up with a good idea, or how creative thinking or critical thinking skills, and then start to teach it to your direct reports. If you got 100 people in your department, maybe don't teach it to 100 people, you just teach it to your direct reports so that they become more innovative and creative. And then you create a system within your department for gathering ideas, thoughts, and concerns and doing something with them. And what happens out of that? We as a sector become more innovative because your idea gets shared with the guy up in camp, wherever. Mobile. And then the guy in Mobile creates a great idea that gets shared with the person in Whitby, Ontario, who comes up with a great idea that gets shared with the people out in, Encinitas, California. The whole point is raise the capacity of the whole sector. Raise everybody's capacity. Where does it start? It starts with you as an executive leader and director making an all-out commitment to creating a system to gathering thoughts, ideas, and concerns. Do we have any questions?
I don't have anything coming in.
Okay, so here's the drill. 5 minutes. No questions, we're gonna be done in 5 minutes. Because I'm not gonna sit here and rattle on if nobody has any questions. That's pretty simple. You say, well, you sound grumpy. It's not that I'm grumpy, but you got things to do, I got things to do. The whole point of the coaching session is to talk through the material. The whole point of the coaching session is that you submit your questions either beforehand or during, and we talk it out. And if you don't understand that part of the model, then I got stuff to do. I mean, it's like I told you before, we don't make money on this thing, brother. Not even close. It costs us a ton of money to do this. We're doing this as a service. And if you don't find it to be relevant and valuable, then you go on down the road, I'll go down the road. We'll all get together next Friday when we talk about the next subject. Okay, so 5 minutes. If I don't get a question in 5 minutes, we're done. Listen, I do want to talk about commitment. So your mid-level leaders, your frontline employees, and you. The expectation is that everybody's going to make a commitment. A commitment. Yeah, remember when we started, I said, what if everybody in your department picked out one thing and tried to be a little bit better at it tomorrow than they were yesterday? Well, that time has come. We have about 6-7 weeks left, or whatever it is, 6-7 weeks left. And the time has come to make the commitment. And so on Monday, and everybody that gets an email on Monday is going to be asked, make your commitment. The time has come to make your commitment. The time has come to make your commitment. And I'll track all those commitments. And I'll send to you, not who made the commitment, but I'll send you the commitments that came out of your department so you see them. So you see who, not who made a commitment, but the commitments that were made. I'll also tell you how many people made commitments, including you. It starts with you. So what are you going to do better tomorrow than you were doing yesterday? Now, if you recall, at the end of your handouts, there's the commitment form, and there's a web page that you can go to. Now, some of you have turned in your commitments, and I appreciate it. But remember that you as the executive leader set the pace. You're the lead sled dog. So what I would do if I were you, if you want to get maximum participation, if you want to get everybody to play, because think about the power of this. If everybody in your department picked out one thing and worked hard to be better at it, over the next 6 weeks, would you have a better department by the 7th week? The answer is?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course you would.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have a better department. So, it starts with you making the commitment and then sharing your commitment with your team. Here's what I've committed to be better at. I encourage all of you to pick out a commitment as well. That's it. Now, and also stop and think about this. When is this chance going to come again? Where you can make a commitment, where you can be supported in that commitment, and where you can be celebrated in that commitment for, nothing, basically. That doesn't happen. In the past, when departments have taken this on, we've seen transformation. But it starts with the executive leader. You got to make your commitment, share your commitment. Remember, it's commitment.buildingthepublicsector.org. It's in the back of your handouts. Commitment.buildingthepublicsector.org. Or you can just fill out the form, scan it in, and send it to me. The online is a lot easier. What's going to happen? I'll get the commitment. You'll get a copy of the commitment. And then we'll follow up with you over the next 6 weeks to see how your commitment is going and what's going down with it. But this is an integral part of this. If we didn't have this commitment piece, this would all be bull crap, dude. Bull crap. Right? Because it's where the rubber meets the road. So, make your commitment. Make your commitment. If you don't make a commitment, this is a waste of time. Waste of your time, waste of my time. And not just why you think, oh, I get better at one thing. No, it's not just that. Think about this. How often does an adult actually change? Rarely. Well, imagine if a whole department, even just half the department, actually accomplished the thing they set out to accomplish individually. Think about the morale boost, the self-esteem boost. Think about the celebration. And think about the confidence that's developed in being able to change. So this isn't just about you getting better personally. This is about creating an environment of a group of people that had success and were celebrated for changing and improving. Now, your commitment might be personal. Maybe you need to spend more time with your kids. Your commitment might be personal. You need to work on your relationship with your wife. Your commitment might be organizational. I need to be a better communicator, or I need to come up with a system for better ideas, or I need better time management, or I need to be more effective delegator, or on and on and on. What's the number one tool you could go to? That survey I asked you to send out. You know, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Suggestions for my improvement. If you could send me back to school, what class would you make me take? That questionnaire would have given you some great insight. Pick one of those things. Then tell the world, I'm going to be better at this. I made my commitment to Ian. I made my commitment to the program. I encourage all of you to do the same. Set the pace, set the tone, be a role model. You're going to develop trust. You're going to develop excitement. You're going to develop energy. And at the end of it, when you actually are better and everybody goes, gosh, that guy's better, they're going to give you deeper permission to lead them. That's the deal. So it's multifaceted. So don't blow me off. If at the end of next week, I don't have a commitment from you, I'm going to send you a note. Hey man, where's my commitment? At the end of that week, I don't have a commitment from you, I might call you. I will harass you till you say this, I ain't doing it. Because at least that's a commitment. At least that's a commitment. Tell me to kiss off, tell me to kiss your ass, Ian. I ain't doing it. Good, because at least that's a commitment. So either make a written commitment or tell me I ain't playing. And if you ain't playing, we'll stop sending you emails. You sound grumpy today. I'm not grumpy today. But this is why things don't change. Because people won't commit to improving themselves personally, putting it in writing, and then walking it out. Especially executive leaders who think everybody else needs to get better. But you got to role model it, whether you need to get better or not, I don't know. But you better role model it, pick out one thing, role model it, put in your plan, put in your commitment. I'll respond back to you and we'll go from there. Any questions?
Nope, I haven't
All
done
right, we've been 5 minutes.
Okay.
There was no questions. I thank you for joining us. You can always send in your questions beforehand, but there's no questions. So since there's no questions, why are we having a coaching session? We'll check in with you next week. We got a number of pieces of information to send you, and we have our next competency next Friday. Thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Hold on to me as we go, as we roll down this unfamiliar road.